Hi, I'm Martin Lloyd Jr., co-host of Balloon Fiesta Live, and today we're going to talk about public safety. But before we get to public safety, you're probably looking for information about COVID and COVID-safe practices. We're not going to cover COVID in this video. All the latest COVID information you'll need to know is on the Know Before You Go page on balloonfiesta.com. So check out that page often to stay up on top of what's happening with COVID. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about public safety. Joining me today is the Director of Public Safety, Sean Wallace. Welcome, Sean. Good to see you.
Thanks, sir. Happy to be here.
It's good. So tell me about public safety. What does that entail? What's that all about? Who is it?
Well, public safety is it's a huge conglomerate, a task force, if you will, that's made up of public and private entities that come together to maintain security and safety at Balloon Fiesta.
What are some of the agencies that are involved?
So we have obviously the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta public safety officers. Then we have the Albuquerque Police Department, Albuquerque Fire Department, and the list goes on and on from there.
Yeah, I think it's 20, 30 agencies, something like that.
Yes, sir. We have state, local, and federal officers and agencies involved.
About how many people are we talking about?
It depends on the day. We have anywhere from I'd say 150 to 200 officers out there at any one given time.
Now, you mentioned public safety officers. How do they fit into the scheme as compared to what we all know of the law enforcement agencies, Albuquerque Police, Bernalillo County Sheriffs, State Police, all those? How does their role line up?
So they are our contract employees that come in, and they are eyes and ears, uniform presence in the field as well as in our different sites that we have around the campus, Gondola Club, the corporate tents. We have officers anywhere you can think somebody would be, that's where we have a public safety officer. And then you'll also see fire and rescue folks as well as police, law enforcement.
So navigators are out there as well, all of our volunteers. What role do the navigators play just kind of in taking care of public safety in general?
So the thing about navigators is there's about 10 times as many as we have law enforcement and public safety officials on the site. So they really fit in and they provide the eyes and ears for us where we're not. If you can think of a grid, for example, we may have only one or two officers in a specific grid where they would have 10 or 15 and they're spread throughout. So I think what we really rely on as far as our public safety and our navigators is we really need them to be plugged in, be engaged with the folks, and if they see something that's out of line or doesn't quite fit with normal operations, then we definitely want to know about it. If you see something, say something.
So that's kind of the line, something that just doesn't seem right, out of the ordinary, something just raises the hair on the back of your neck or something?
Yes, sir.
So how do you see something, how do you go about saying something? You're out there by yourself, you see this, how do you deal with that?
So we have a couple of different ways we can communicate that. One is if you have a radio or you have access to radio, you call the command post. If you don't have access or you have a team leader that has access, get a hold of your team leader. If not, find a public safety officer, the ones that wear the uniform like I have on. You can contact one of them and then they can call it in. Or we have the command post number where you can call that in, and that's 505-821-7300.
We've taught people to call 911 in the rest of their life, but you didn't mention 911.
No, sir. We actually have law enforcement and fire dispatchers on site. So we have a public safety dispatcher, we have a fire dispatcher, and we have a law enforcement dispatcher. And the reason is we want our dispatch and command and control center to be able to dispatch officers and resources in a timely manner. If you have to call 911, that's going to add anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes just because it's going to get routed to the dispatch center off-site, and then it's going to get rerouted and it'll finally make its way to our command post.
So you actually delay things
Absolutely.
by calling 911, call the number or get a radio.
Yes, sir.
Or just flag somebody down, I guess. That would work as well. What about taking things into your own hands as a navigator? Should you be confronting people who are not following the rules, who are doing those types of things? Should you try and detain them till you guys get there? How would a navigator interact with somebody who's not doing what they should be?
Well, I think the big thing to remember is it's obviously a family event, right? We want to make sure that people feel comfortable, but they feel safe and secure as well. The other thing is we want them to also understand that there are rules in place. So as a navigator, if you see somebody smoking, for instance, well, it's a no smoking environment, ask them to put it out. They may not even know that that's the rule. If they choose to stand there and argue with you about it, do your best to de-escalate the situation, and you may end up just having to walk away, notify dispatch or the command center, command post, and let them know, and then dispatch officers from there. The biggest thing is we want to make sure that we don't put our navigators in a position where, one, they're not trained to handle the situation, but two, there's a no-win in that situation. We want to always make sure that there's a winnable outcome for everybody involved.
So be courteous, ask them to follow the rules. If they don't get into an argument about it. We don't need any confrontations, I guess.
Absolutely.
And just go ahead and report that up the chain that we've already talked about.
Yes, sir.
That would be the way. What about medical issues? Sometimes, that extra few seconds they tell us, providing that additional first aid or something like that, how involved should you get if it's a medical issue?
See, that one is a tricky one because some of our navigators may be medically trained. What we tell everybody is we ask that you provide the limited amount of training. You act on the limited amount of training that we provide you, and we really need you to just get a hold of our command post and get the resources there, because we have medical staff all across the campus. We have our firefighter, Albuquerque Fire and Albuquerque Ambulance will be on bikes or in carts all over the field. And as long as they're notified and you give a good description of where you're at, they'll get there sometimes within 20 seconds. We want to make sure we get people that have the equipment with them, because they have the carts, all the equipment they need, and they can get the person, if they need to, over to Lovelace, and then even if we have to, worst case scenario, Albuquerque Ambulance can transport them off much quicker than anything that you could do.
So I was going to ask about response time, and you said as quick as 20 seconds?
Yeah, the way we have it set up, we have people throughout the park. And the purpose is we want to make sure that we have a timely response to any requests or dispatches that we have.
That's pretty amazing to think that we can do that. And so going back to the 911 issue, that if you have to call and it starts turning things into 5 or 6, 10 minutes,
yes,
compared to that 20 seconds, that's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
To do that. Now, the other thing you said was that we need to have a good description of where you are, where the incident is. What's the best way to describe that when you're on the radio or calling it in?
Well, using landmarks. If I'm in front of Tom Thumb Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts, the Gondola Club,
Yeah.
Those are the things we want to know. Is we want to know where you are. And it's easier for us to know, all right, well, they're at the Gondola Club. We have officers in that grid, so the response time is going to be really good. So that's the thing is that if you're on the west side of the field, it starts to get trickier as we start getting people using directions, because a lot of people aren't going to be from here, so they're not going to understand what west, east, north, or south is. That's why we really ask for landmarks as opposed to directions.
Probably a good time to mention that if you're actually out on the field, every launch square has a pole in the corner of the field.
Yes.
So if you can pull those letters and numbers off, that'd be a good one to be able to do as well.
And we ask our dispatchers whenever they get those calls, we ask them to ask that. Sometimes that may not come up, so we ask that the navigators definitely, if they're on the field, that's something they look for.
And most of them have an area that they're working in anyway, so it'd be good to know and kind of, before something comes up, kind of identify what landmarks are really around me.
Absolutely.
What's right here and what's here, and that would make you probably more knowledgeable to be able to report those kinds of things.
Yes, sir, for sure.
So smoking, we talked about, pets, weapons, that stuff's not allowed, correct?
That's absolutely right. And we actually have a list of our prohibited items on Balloon Fiesta, the website. Mm-hmm. So if you have any question about whether or not it's allowable or not, just go to that and you'll see. It's the same as what it was in 2019. We don't want people bringing knives. It has to be, the blade has to be shorter than 3 inches, just like it was in 2019. The big thing is we always go back to, hey, it's a family event. We want families to come out and picnic and enjoy it. You know, not having one in 2020, we really want to push folks getting out there and just enjoying being outside, but being able to enjoy the balloons and the event itself. It's a wonderful event, and we want to try to support that.
It's a weather-dependent event, though, and there have been times when severe weather has moved in. What happens in that case?
So we have a couple of things that are in place there. One is we have a partnership with the National Weather Service where we are constantly getting updated, and we have an idea of the window that we have when it comes to how much time before it hits the field.
Got 10 minutes, got 15 minutes,
Yes.
45 minutes, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And what we're trying to do is we want to give the professionals the opportunity to give us up-to-date intelligence as to whether or not, hey, we're going to be fine, or we need to delay the event, we need to cancel the event, we need to do a mass evacuation, we need to shelter in place, whatever it is, we have those pieces in place. And one of the things that we do, say we're going to have a mass evacuation or a shelter in place, we're going to come over the intercom or the PA. And we're going to announce that. We're going to announce that we have severe weather or lightning or whatever it is, and that we're going to give direction based on that. The thing that'll help with that too is we'll have law enforcement and public safety officials that are helping escort folks to where they need to go. If we're going to do a mass evacuation, then we're going to push everybody towards their cars. If the time is so sensitive, one of the things we may do is we may bring buses down on the field and just push people on the buses to try to get them off the field and under some sort of cover so they're sheltered from the weather. But the big thing is that follow the directions from the PA, follow directions from public safety officials and law enforcement, and you'll be just fine.
And what role do navigators, or should navigators, play in the case of, like, say, an evacuation?
So if we're going to do a mass evacuation, you will hear an all call on the radio prior to, and we will try to make sure that everybody knows. Hopefully the team leader has communicated that to you, but if they have not, then as you hear it coming over the PA, then you just do your best to follow to push people towards wherever it is we're telling them to go. If we're doing a mass evacuation, help us push people towards the gates. If we're moving people towards shelter, help us do that. There will be plenty of public safety officials and law enforcement and firefighter and EMS folks around. You'll be able to get a picture of what's going on from them if you haven't been able to hear it over the PA.
So if you can help move things along, do that, but certainly don't put yourself in danger. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Anything else a navigator should know about dealing with the public, or how to interface with public safety and law enforcement and fire rescue type folks?
You know, I think the big thing is if you see somebody, one of our public safety officials or law enforcement or firefighters, introduce yourself. You know, I think that's one of the things that gets lost is being a former police officer. A lot of times people don't remember that we're people too, and we're just out there doing our job trying to provide a safe and secure environment, which is really what the navigators are doing too.
Sure.
So you're part of the group, you're part of the program to provide that. So if you see somebody, go up and talk to them. And if you see a normal, or not a normal, but if you see a patron out there that you want to go talk to, feel free to go talk to them as well, because a lot of people forget that this is such an awesome and awe-inspiring event that sometimes people just want to talk to somebody about it.
Sure.
And that's our big thing, is we're so excited to have it, is we want you, from my standpoint, out there being not only the eyes and ears, but being the best commercial for us. This is a great event. This is a great event for our community, and we're super happy that we're getting to have it. So let's all be on the same page and not only provide a safe and secure one, but also one that people remember how friendly we were and how enjoyable their experience was.
You know, sometimes the experience is so enjoyable that parents get separated from their kids. What happens? What should a navigator? How should a navigator handle that type of situation?
So the big thing about missing children is you want to talk about all things come to a stop when we hear that we have a missing child, because it's that important to us. That's number one priority whenever those things come up. And we have multiple, usually during the day. You know, mass ascension, everybody's looking up and child wanders off. Next thing you know, it's been 20 minutes and they haven't seen their child.
Yeah, he's looking at the yellow balloon. Mom and
Yep.
dad are looking at the blue one. Next thing you know, there's 100 people between them.
So as a navigator, if you come across that, one of the things we want you to do is obviously look in the immediate area. Is there a reunification that you can help facilitate right now? You're going to know pretty quick if that's possible or not. If not, if you have a radio, obviously we want you to call that in immediately. If you don't have a radio, we want you to find a public safety official, a police officer, a firefighter, even a balloon official, anybody that's got a radio, and let's get that relayed. The child that you have, name, date of birth, what they're wearing, and the telephone number, and let's get all that relayed to the command post, because that starts the wheels of reunification right there. The next thing is that we want that child brought to the public safety office. And the reason is that the focus is bringing all the children there for the reunification, because we want the parents to come, provide proof that that is actually their child,
Okay.
and then actually document that the child has been returned in a timely manner. There are some protocols and things that we have to follow as far as legally. So the big thing we want to do is make sure that we get the child back to our custody and then return to the parents as soon as possible. But there's a process definitely for sure.
Should the Navigator then take this missing child there, or should they wait for a public safety person to come by? It seems like maybe taking the kid on your own wouldn't necessarily be the best idea.
Yeah, we definitely don't want them going by themselves. If you have you and another one, absolutely, 2 people. We don't want you going anywhere by yourself with a missing child. That screams, that creates a lot
It's
of
that
issues.
I see something.
Yes,
I see
you
something.
know what I mean? But the other part of it is as you're trying to move through, I've been out there with my kids, trying to move through with a child through that crowd is a daunting task, one, especially a child that's not yours.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely if you have another navigator or your team leader with you, absolutely start moving towards the command post. At some point you're going to run into somebody, a firefighter, a public safety official, a law enforcement officer, hand them off to them and they'll move on. The big thing is we're constantly moving towards the command post where we can make that reunification, but at the same time, we're doing it in a manner that protects us and them.
Let's remind everybody where the command post actually is.
So it's actually behind Concession Row, and it's the big public safety building. Loveless will have a big sign that says Loveless First Aid right there, and you'll see it when you come off Concession Row there. And there'll be a
dead center in the field, right
Yep.
behind concession.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of the field, and you'll see the public safety tower, and then our building is right next to it.
And so you mentioned Loveless, so that's also a place for first aid, where if someone needs it, they can just go there as well?
Yeah, so we have Loveless is our medical partner, and they are on scene to provide emergency medical first aid there. But as we've talked about before, we have the Albuquerque Fire Department and Albuquerque Ambulance spread out throughout the field. And what they do, if they have an individual that needs medical assistance, they will bring them to Loveless. And then if they need to move the person off site, then they'll move them off site.
Final thoughts about public safety and the role of navigators?
I think it just goes back to when you think of public safety, it's a layered approach. We have law enforcement, we have at our state, local, and federal entities. We have our emergency medical services with Albuquerque Ambulance, Albuquerque Fire, and Loveless, other partners. And then we have public safety, we have navigators, we have all our different officials. But like I said, it's a layered approach because all we're wanting to do is provide a safe and secure environment for our balloonists and our folks to have a good time.
Sean Wallace, Director of Public Safety for Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Don't forget to do that proof of attendance of watching this video. See you next time.